Plus, she reveals 9 young men shot ambulance staff multiple times, sexually assaulted another, and threatened to kill her.
If not for me, someone's child wouldn't have died like this. The death of the driver is what even hurts me the most.
Also tonight, National Democratic Congress suspends membership of Kokwani Doho with immediate effect. More as the largest opposition party sets in motion processes which could end any official relationship with its former Deputy General Secretary. We have details.
Is needed to help minimize the impact of second wave of COVID-19 on the economy.
And in sports, former boxing world champion Isaac Dogbe is no longer managed by his father. Now we hear from Coach Paul Dogbe what would be his first reaction to the news when I bring you sport in 50 minutes.
And much later, embattled comedian Fanny Face in the grips of the police for illegally using firearms in public. We have all the details here on Newsnight. Do join us with your thoughts and comments. It's via WhatsApp, also on Facebook. On WhatsApp, it's 05511119997. You can leave your comments there on Facebook as well. I am MFR Paul.
And my name is Evans Mensah. Let's start with that breaking news story from Parliament, where tonight the House has been suspended for 3 weeks because of a surge in COVID-19 cases. We understand, MFA, that as many as 17 members of Parliament and 151 staff and ancillary workers of the parliamentary service have all been affected by this.
Well, earlier we're told that we're only going to sit twice a week. Then today, the Speaker made an announcement, 17 members of Parliament, 151 staff. But let's listen to the Speaker when he made the announcement just a while ago.
The House, pursuant to the adoption of the business statement, decided that Parliament sits on Tuesdays and Thursdays until otherwise decided. The House further decided that not more than 1/3 of honorable members would attend sittings of the House in the chamber at any given time. These decisions were in furtherance of the directive of His Excellency the President in his update, and I'm referring to update number 23, on the COVID-19 situation on 31st January 2021, announcing new measures to contain the pandemic. Honorable members, having regard to the upsurge of the coronavirus infection in the House, now reading 17 members of Parliament and 151 staff and ancillary workers in the presence of Parliament, and the fact that the Appointments Committee is yet to commence consideration of His Excellency the President's ministerial nominees, I have, in consultation with leadership, decided that the sitting of the House be suspended for 3 weeks. It is hoped that within this period of adjournment, the Appointments Committee will commence consideration and public hearing of the President's nominee for ministerial appointments. By the end of the 3 weeks, the Appointments Committee would have submitted reports on the referral for the consideration of the House.
I want to take you to Parliament now. Parliamentary correspondent Kwesi Parker Wilson is on the line. And Parker, just as you've been learning, this takes immediate effect, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It takes immediate effect today, shortly after he announced the suspension of the House. he also adjourned for 3 weeks. And so from tomorrow, Parliament is not sitting. However, the appointment committee will be sitting throughout the whole period. They are scheduled to vet the ministerial nominees. And Evans, you know that they have already advertised that from tomorrow they are going to commence the vetting. And so that will be done. So these are the only members of the appointment committee are required to be in Parliament to conduct their business or vet the ministerial nominees. Apart from that, all other members of Parliament have been asked to go home, stay home, and observe the social protocol, social distance protocol. Yes.
And it's obvious that Parliament itself may have been facilitating the testing regime for its staff.
Yeah, but I didn't get that.
It's obvious, Parker, that Parliament itself may have been facilitating a testing regime for staff of the parliamentary service and members of Parliament on the premises.
Hello, Evans.
Can you hear me, Parker?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Talking about the testing regime, is it obvious on the ground that people are submitting themselves to the testing? Because I remember at one time the Speaker himself had to complain that members of Parliament either are not submitting themselves for testing, or when they test, they still somehow come to the House, and that he'll be forced at one point to name and shame.
Well, last week there was another round of testing for members of Parliament and also parliamentary service staff. And we do understand that members of Parliament submitted themselves to the process. For today, for example, the Speaker did not touch on that. Maybe perhaps because they're going to suspension, but it was rather clear in his mind that as they go home, they need to observe the protocols. Again, members of Parliament should ensure routine testing to check their status. And he's doing this because he wants to break the spread of the virus or the transmission of the virus. And that is why this has become necessary for him to take this decision. But as I mentioned, for members of the vetting committee, they will come around. We don't know the protocols for them anyway, but we do understand that the nominees who will be appearing before them would only themselves, the candidates represent themselves alone. They're not going to come with any supporters, but that is the information we have picked up from the chairman of the committee.
This time there's quite a large amount of petitions coming to the committee, so we'll relate to them. Many of them truly are personal scores.
The personal scores?
Yes.
The petition?
Yes.
Which one?
General,
which ones of them?
General, we are investors with Men's Gold. The Attorney General did not help us to prosecute Men's Gold, so don't approve it. One that I've read that is alleging wrongdoing on any particular nominee. That the nominee did A, B, C, or D. Either the implementation of a government policy or an expectation that particular nominee ought to have done something for him or his group which was not done. The basis of the petition.
Well, I've cited a few of the petition myself. Which one? The one against the approval of Dan Buche and also Mavis Howe comes in. And the issue about Honorable Howe comes in is about, firing gunshots in public to disrupt an electoral process as a minister.
That is not the allegation.
The committee,
you are adding the electoral process. I've read the petition. And, we will investigate the circumstances under which the minister fired, whether it was intended to harm anybody, whether it was in self-defense. But we'll be careful not to interfere with the investigation which the police are already holding. But as much as possible, we will not take any petition on its face value.
So do I get understanding that most of the petitions you received so far, in a way, do not merit your attention as a committee, as a chair of the committee? Is that understanding?
They don't merit our attention, but they are not petitions going to the misconduct. They are not alleging specific misconduct on the part of the candidate. They are not alleging that the candidates do not qualify under the Constitution. These are the critical things that we look at. We will investigate allegations. that have basis. Some have no basis. There's no reason to call. For example, the issue you mentioned, the allegation involving Dangote.
Yeah, Dambuchi, that's correct.
What was the specific misconduct alleged against him?
Okay.
I don't see any.
Well, Parker is still with me. Parker, I'm curious. Did you get any sense from the minority side, that's in the NDC side, on the vetting committee, what their posture is going to be going into the vetting tomorrow? Hello, Parker. Okay, we don't.
Hello, Evans.
Can you hear me, Parker? Okay, I mean, difficulty there with Parker's line. Apologies for that. But he's been interacting with the minority leader, Harun Edrisu.
We will do our work without fear or favor, nothing more. We'll probe into the record of ministers, not just their CVs. We will measure knowledge, IQ, subject matter, temperament, and the extent to which they are serving the public, and on matters of integrity and service in public service. I'm happy to take your questions. I'll take two. Yes. The clerk have just disclosed to me copies of the handing over notes. I've asked him to make our copies available to the Honorable Mahama Ayaga, so that those ministers who don't even want us to know that they left liabilities, they'll be questioned on those matters.
Then we understand that the handing over notes are not a requirement for members of the appointment committee.
You don't determine what's a requirement for us in doing our work.
So that is the minority leader there, of course. All the details from the vetting here on Joy 99.7 FM, also live on the Joy News channel as well. You have to make a date for that tomorrow. And thankfully, by some coincidence or design, it's not going to clash with the Supreme Court hearings. Tomorrow, there's no Supreme Court. Maybe come back on Thursday for that. But so we are going to have pure unadulterated sessions of vetting tomorrow. But let's stay with the coronavirus pandemic and how it's affecting Ghana. We're getting some updates now on how it's affecting schools from the Ghana Health Service.
And senior high schools in 5 regions have recorded positive COVID-19 cases. So 23 schools in the Greater Accra region have recorded a total of 56 cases. That's according to the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabwaji. Speaking during a Ministry of Information press briefing, he stated that although the cases raised concerns about adherence to the safety protocols, they were expected.
It was expected in the first 3 to 4 weeks. Because people are going to move from home to school, you're going to have some cases, as happened in the previous exercises. But over time, we are hoping that with the tightening of restrictions, adherence to protocols, we will actually get it better. We've had upper senior secondary school outbreaks in Upper West, Western, Greater Accra, and Eastern region. 23 schools in Greater Accra have so far reported 56 cases and no fatality. So if I come to that, we can look at the spread of the schools that are, then we have averagely 23 cases and total recovery 0 among others. But you can see that we also have some suspected cases of about 166 that we are still following up to see. And we have some staff also affected in the schools. Central region has also reported all of them are well and isolated, and those who are close contacts are still being observed so that we can contain the spread. Central region and the whole region has reported 8 cases from about 7 or so schools. 2 of them have already recovered, so they have 6 active cases among the schools in Central region.
Okay, so those are details that most parents will be paying attention to. You have your children in school?
Yes.
Any of them in the SHS?
No, not yet.
Okay. Or primary?
JHS and then primary.
Okay.
But they run a shift system, so.
Shift system. Okay, I have 2, both of them lower primary. But it's a talk of the town among parents and wards at home, indeed. There are suggestions as to what the best approach should be. We're hearing now from a medical doctor, Dr. Omani Boama, who is recommending a shift system for day and boarding students.
They are in school now. Bringing them out of school is also going to mean that if we do not test them and we just bring them out of school into the communities, it will just be a matter of spreading the virus also nationwide. I will strongly advocate that for those who are in school, we look at ways of protecting them. And that is why I would say that, look, for let's say senior high schools, where we have people in boarding houses and some day students, in the interim, once we roll out the vaccine, to segregate them and still having adequate social distancing. So the borders, who we will say are confined within the four walls of the school, can be in a particular stream, whilst the day students who may be coming from home via public transport and all can also be in a particular stream, but with adequate social distancing and all the protocols being observed.
So, as a parent, would you want schools to remain closed, or they should remain open or closed?
Yeah, I mean, I think for now, I am okay with, because my children are in school.
Yeah.
But it depends on the situation in a particular school. I mean, I went to the school, physically inspected the space.
Inspected the space
Yes,
before.
yes. I worked with the head of the school. Through the classrooms, I saw it myself. Yeah, absolutely. I had to convince myself that the school was ready to accommodate my ward, and indeed I was satisfied, because there's a combination of both physical class and an online still happening, because so they can make a full transition.
Okay.
So that I was happy with.
So parents like you have also been sharing their views on the Super Morning Show today.
I really think that it's good we keep the schools open. During the lockdown and throughout all those times, I monitored kids in my area, I monitored kids in other areas, and what I realized is that they were still doing the normal things. They were playing the football, they were engaging with their peers, they were doing the things that we didn't want them to do. And they were doing it without nose masks.
When we close down schools right now, there are a lot of things that this country will lose. Seriously. So I don't think closing down schools will be the option.
I think that as much as we want our kids to go to school, and we are happy government opening the schools, but I think now we should run a compulsory shift system. When some of the students will go in the morning and some will go in the afternoon. Because my daughter attends a private school, and last time she was telling me they sit on a desk in the school, even though they will be wearing masks. I mean, when they go on break, they do all sort of things, and it's not safe for us to keep the children pack up most of them like that. And even in their school bus when they are coming home, you see the bus with a little kids, plenty of them sitting on each other.
Okay, so some parents there, it's a difficult time for many parents making the decision still with the numbers that we are getting now. And
but now that Parliament is shut down, because 17 members have recorded cases, at least they've shut down for 3 weeks. So now it raises the debate again as to, because we've recorded a number of cases in our schools as well. What happens? What will be the decision? We wait to see.
Yeah, of course, it's an important point to consider. We're now with the numbers that we are recording now. If you look at the President Akufo-Addo's last address on COVID-19, was on the 31st January 2021, where he stated the death toll is 416, and this is just on the 31st of January. So this is less than this is 9 days, right, since that address. At that time when he spoke, it was 116, the death toll. The Ghana Health Service, 416. The Ghana Health Service latest figures indicates that we are at 482 people have since died. That makes it 66 new deaths, right? Yeah. In 9 days. That's scary. That's absolutely scary. Now here's the Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumabajo, on this.
I can confirm for now that the death toll has risen to 9, including an 11-year-old girl. 6 of the victims have been treated.
Well, apologies for that. That will bring you Patrick Kumabajo shortly. I want to bring in KNUST's Dr. Michael Owusu, who's of course a senior virologist at the Kumasi Center for Collaborative Research, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Doc, thank you for your time here on Newsnight. Now, we're now hearing about the actual figures of the infections in schools across the country with the breakdown. With all that we're hearing today, with the numbers of deaths, fatalities, and the outbreak in schools, you had maintained that we should at least close down preschools, kindergarten, and lower primary. Is that still something you stand by now that we've heard today in the updated figures?
Yes, Evans, good evening, and good evening to all your listeners. Yes, I stand by that, and I think that we need to take this decision as early as possible in order to reduce the hospitalizations, the deaths associated. But then also understand that this is not a decision we have to take in isolation. There are a number of things we need to consider. In the last president's address, he mentioned some of what we call the suppressive measures, banning weddings, public gatherings to some extent, nightclubs and all that. So we need to weigh this. I always say that school closure should be on the top of the ladder. It's the last resort. But before then, we have markets that we could still tackle and do something about. We have transport that we could still tackle and do something about. We have workshops, we have conferences, things that still enable people to move. But then if we have to look at the educational sector, I think that if you look at the tertiary schools, they have the ability to maintain the protocol to some extent. These are adults who understand what they are about. They can communicate their signs and symptoms to you. They know how to isolate, and they know how to, when to talk and when to say what when the time comes. If you look at SHS and GHS, they have been through this experience before. Last year when they were going through school in batches, the teachers have some amount of experience to deal with that. The lower primary and kindergarten is a test for us. When the president opened and allowed that the schools go, some of us were watching how this will play out, especially in the kindergartens where it is extremely difficult for you to ensure and implement these COVID protocols. You know that 1-year-old child, 2-year-old child, 3-year-old child, you cannot be 100% sure that the child could put on masks throughout. And the difficulty is that when these children begin to show signs and symptoms of the disease, they cannot communicate. Some of the signs and symptoms of the disease is not the same as an adult. I believe that we are now learning to understand how children behave, how they manifest these signs and symptoms. So all of a sudden you see he's coughing, but then by the time he coughs, he may have transmitted to one person or the other. Where the schools or where the children are in enclosed areas where they don't come home, you can deal with them on campuses where they are and isolate and do contact tracing. But majority of these are moved from their places to the homes almost every now and then, which will mean that they are now going to serve as precursors. Where they carry these viruses around, infect their parents. They may get sick within a short duration of time. They may be well. But the parents will get sick. The parents will go to hospital. The parents may die from this. So I think that on the educational ladder, if there is a portion that we have to tackle, then we must look at where it is difficult for us to implement the protocol. And for me, the lower primary and the kindergartens, I think it's almost impossible. We have seen a lot. You can observe them as you move around the schools. The mask wearing is almost difficult. The teachers are doing their best, but they just cannot ensure 100% compliance. So to help the teachers, to help the parents, to help all of us, I think that we can tackle this together with many other variables like the market, like the transport, like the religious organization, like the workshop and conferences, so that we can cut down on the new cases, cut down on hospitalization, and cut down on death. And for me in particular, we need to also have in mind the new variants, their movement and expansion in the country. If we allow this movement to go on for a long period, and we allow the South African strain especially to expand across the length and breadth of the country, then what will become the use of this vaccine, which we know that it doesn't seem to work well with this new variant from South Africa. So I think we need to put all this in good context and take decisions that will help us to protect lives and to ensure that our implementation measures work very well when we begin to roll them out.
What is obvious is that whatever it is, some difficult decisions will have to be made on the back of all that is unfolding with the pandemic locally. Thank you very much, Dr. Michael Owusu. There, you're still listening to News 90 on Joy 99.7 94.7 FM. There's some good news though about mask wearing, MFA.
And we're told that it's increased for what we have in 43 communities in the Greater Accra region. A review that the percentages of people wearing the mask has increased from 42 to 47%.
The wearing of masks already has increased from 42 to 47. Those not wearing masks at all decreased to from 26 to 29. Base mask wearing is generally better in the morning than in the afternoon. And this applies to both adults and children. 55% of children wore masks correctly in the morning, and it dropped to 29.5% during the late afternoon. 51% of adults who wore masks correctly in the morning dropped to 43% late in the afternoon. So it looks like the afternoon is something we need to really make an effort to ensure that people keep their mask on in the afternoon, and also increase generally even the morning one. Generally, correct wearing of the mask has seen an improvement in some communities that we visited.
Well, that's to an extent, it could be true because now Evans Mensah is always wearing his mask, so it tells you that the mask wearing has increased. But let's move away from COVID-19 at this point, and fresh details emerge in review of pregnant women in ambulance robbery incident has not been contacted by the police for a witness statement 5 days after the saga.
Well, this directly contradicts an earlier claim by the police that witness statements have been taken from the victims to facilitate their investigations. Let's take a listen to what Acting Public Relations Officer for the Eastern Region Police, Francis Gomado, told us last night.
No arrest has been made. But yesterday, there was a team of policemen led by ASP Danso, who is the Educom district officer, to the enclave where the incident happened. So they went and combed the place in search of these alleged robbers. But unfortunately, all the places that are noted to be a settlement for the Fulanis, they all vacated the area. The areas leaving their animals alone. So we are still picking some intelligence, and we hope and pray that we should be able to get some people arrested in connection with this heinous crime. So investigations are ongoing, but just that we've not made any arrests yet. In terms of lead, yes, we are following a lead. But lead in itself is not concrete. Are you getting me? Will lead to positive results. Some will actually lead to nothing. You understand? But all the information available to us now, in terms of description and some pieces of information that we are picking, we are moving on them. And we are only hoping and praying that we should be able to make an inroad. Actually, any victim of robbery will be taken care of in a certain way. So those who actually suffer some torture or what have you, assault, whatever, they have been given medical funds to attend hospital, and that is how far we've gone with.
Well, the emergency ambulance team came under attack while conveying Priscilla from the Akusi Government Hospital to the Eastern Regional Hospital in Koforidua after suffering complications in labor. It was an attack which began after midnight and lasted for hours at a remote part of the Asesaso Edukrom Road, during which the robbers shot and killed the ambulance service personnel, Ibrahim Tete Hameku. Now, this pregnant woman who was unfortunate to be caught up in this has been speaking to us. One of the things she tells us is that, of course, she hasn't been contacted by the police yet. Since this happened last week, Thursday. Yeah. She tells Joy News 9 armed robbers accosted them in the middle of the journey and opened fire.
They took everything we had and disconnected the things in the ambulance and demanded money. There were about 9 young boys. We were held at gunpoint from about 1 a.m. to 4 a.m. They took my phone, which had 1,700 CDs on it. They took everything, including my mobile money pin. I started shouting, but the nurse urged me to keep quiet, otherwise they would shoot me. When I went to the hospital today, they didn't tell me the driver had died. I was told yesterday, and when I heard it, I fainted. If not for me, someone's child wouldn't have died like this. The death of the driver is what even hurts me the most. I think it's all my fault. If not for me, nothing like this would have happened to him.
Na also up to now I still a police for no obiano on kasai. Police in Evian Frail, Obian so my hoy. Na ambulance service for no achomonka.
Well, so that's Priscilla there narrating her harrowing ordeal to our correspondent, Maxwell Kudeko. Thankfully, Maxwell joins us on the line. So, Maxwell, I'm just concerned. Walk us through the details. Priscilla provided to you. She's saying that the police have not contacted her since Thursday.
Well, precisely so. She confirmed that since last Thursday, what the incident happened, so as of now, she's not received any call from the police service or the investigation team trying to, as it were, take or inquire from her what happened. Officially, they have not taken any statement from her. Nobody is in to question the methodology being used by the investigation team as in unearthing the mystery behind it. But these are key principal survivors of the incident, and they are saying on record that they have not been contacted. It's not only Priscilla alone. The paramedics who was on board also confirmed to me today that she has also not been contacted by the police to, as it were, pick pieces of information from her. I am aware that the ambulance service have released contacts of the paramedics to the investigation team, but as of now, she has not been contacted in the scheme of affairs, or as it were, gathering information. But Priscilla also indicated that the armed robbers took away his mobile phone that has 1,700 on it. They also picked her mobile money pin. So it suggests that it is possible, it's very, very likely that there may be a transaction on that phone. So a lot of people have been criticizing that if the police or the investigation team happen to have contacted the two female on board, it would have lead them into identifying the people who perpetrated this act. So it is confirmed that the two have not been contacted by the police. No statement have been taken from the preterm mother and the paramedic on board the ambulance.
And she makes the point about the mobile money personal identification number which was taken. And from what we also understand from her, the robbers in her presence, whilst this whole incident was happening, transferred the money from her phone onto another phone that they had possession of, and that she's detailed all this to you today.
Exactly. So they went away with the phone, and so
and
that
amount
is
of
the worry of many, that if the investigation team were bent on tracing the culprits, that would have been a very primary source of investigation. But the worry is that the two have not been contacted. Their phones have not been. The telephone numbers of the two have not been taken from the police to help them follow or have a gist of who is keeping the phone, who is making which calls with the phone, and who is doing what transaction with the phone. But it has been established that they picked the phone with the mobile money PIN code, and they went away with it.
Of course. Maxwell, thank you very much. Let's speak to the acting Eastern Regional Police PRO, Francis Gumado. Mr. Gumado, thank you for your time here on Newsnight. Hello, Mr. Gumado.
Hello.
Thank you for your time on Newsnight. The pregnant woman.
The line is very faint.
Yeah. Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you a bit clear now.
the woman, the pregnant woman who was caught in this robbery incident, tells us that she still hasn't been contacted.
Hello.
You can't hear me?
I can hear you properly, bro.
Can you hear me now? Is it better?
Yeah, speak a bit louder.
Okay.
Maybe the area.
Yes, if there's noise around you, can move away from it. I'm sure it could be better. But is it better now?
Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I can hear a lot of noise in your environment. If you can
Noise,
move
eh?
away, yes. You can move away from where you are.
Okay, let me move a bit.
Okay. We'll come back to him shortly on that. Let's get some clarity on the position as expressed by the pregnant woman and what the police is doing right now to get to the bottom of this and resolve the matter.
Well, so maybe we should try again and see if we have Mr. Francis Gomado joining us back on the line. Mr. Francis Gomado, can you hear us now?
Hello.
Is it better now, Mr. Gomado?
Hello, Ivan.
Okay, so it appears that Mr. Gomado is just unable to hear us on this, but we're hoping to get some answers from the police because they had earlier mentioned that they've taken the witness statement of the pregnant woman. But we've been speaking to, our colleague Maxwell Agwegba has been speaking. No, Maxwell Kudeko has been speaking to her, and she confirms that the police has not contacted her just yet. But we'll work the lines again because we need to hear from the police on this matter, what exactly they've done about the situation, where we are with investigations, because it happened on Thursday, and today is Tuesday, and still one of the witnesses tells us that the police has not contacted them. But let's do business. We'll come back with that, but we'll try again. It looks like Kuti has her now. Okay, we don't have Mr. Gomado just yet. But George, what's in business?
Well, MFR, coming up in business, economist Professor Peter Corti sets conditions needed to help minimize the expected impact of the second wave of the COVID on the economy. And some firms are exporting to the UK market, optimistic about a quick turnaround of fortunes following the announcement of a new trade agreement between Ghana and the UK. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials, and Allianz Insurance.
That's the sound of my heart breaking the first time I said I wanted to be a cassava farmer. Thank you. But this was when I graduated with first-class honors in agriculture. Oh, my first harvester. The last harvester I ordered online. That's people seeing my fresh cassava page on Facebook and Instagram. And endless number of calls for my quick fufu all year round.
There are beautiful connections that bridge humble todays to amazing tomorrows on Ghana's #1 network, everywhere you go.
Our 130-year journey at Allianz has seen our operations growing to cover over 92 million Allianz customers in over 70 countries worldwide. Allianz Life Insurance Ghana, a subsidiary of Allianz Group, has put together a wide range of insurance packages to suit the pockets of every Ghanaian individual, family, group, corporate body, as well as their employees. Kindly call us on 030-2267-892 or 059-144-9686 or visit our website www.allianz-gh.com for more enquiries. Allianz Life, we secure your future.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, economist Professor Peter Corti has indicated that the country's economic recovery can be sustained with strict enforcement of COVID-19 protocols and the deployment of vaccines. He has full his concerns by the Bank of Ghana Governor Dr. Ernest Addison that the economic recovery is under threat due to shocks emanating from the second wave of COVID-19. But Professor Peter Corti tells J Business there is a way out.
We ought to enforce the
protocols. We ought to ensure that people are educated. We ought to ensure that we do what has to be done. Government has to provide the needed PPEs and support the health workers. Also, whatever has to be done to ensure that we don't record a continuous surge in the number of cases and also death. It has to be done so we do not reverse the gains we have made in terms of economic growth. The outlook remains positive. Some have projected 4 to 5% GDP growth for 2021. That depends on the extent to which we manage this pandemic. If we get the vaccine in on good time and we also do the needful, we respect the protocols, I believe will certainly revive our economy and bring back life to normal.
That is economist Professor Peter Cote. Now, some firms exporting to the UK market are optimistic of a quick turnaround for their fortunes. Now, there follows an announcement by the UK and Ghana that they have reached an agreement on a new trade agreement between the two countries. And this is expected to abolish tariffs and duties on all these firms that have been badly affected since the operations at the beginning of this year. Corporate Affairs and Administrative Manager at Golden Resorts, George Bonyer, tells Joy Business this development should come as a big relief for them.
Obviously, this is a major headache which we finally has brought to an end. So it allows us to look forward, plan for the future, and then begin to strategize for market expansion, which was not possible because of all the uncertainties. Now, the tariffs that have been paid during this interim period, there's a lot of money. Ultimately, it will be passed on to us. But the good news is that it was not for a very long period of time. So hopefully, if we work hard towards the end of the year, we should be able to recover some of it. But the important thing is that we have this behind us. We can look forward to it and then work.
George Ponye is the Corporate Affairs and the Administrative Manager at Golden Exotic, that is the banana fruit, the exporting firm. Now, lawyer and business strategist David Fosudote is actually downplaying the impact of the ongoing court case on foreign direct investments into the country. Now, therefore, the development may force some firms to hold on to any capital movement to the country due to the current Supreme Court chamber. Mr. Dote doesn't think so.
I don't really think FDI is so much centered around political issues the way we make it look. Investors look at return on capital more than politics. And the investors, if you're talking about foreign investors, they end up finding their way around the politics. So, yes, it has a factor. But maybe it belongs to a different conversation. If you ask me, I don't think the so-called democracy has benefited us in terms of investment as much as we would like to believe. Okay. I think there are different ways that we have benefited from that. Secondly, I believe in the school of domestic investments. And if we drive domestic investments, it can attract foreign investments. Okay. And I believe it should be driven from the private sector, not the public sector. So I will not think that we will see a significant drop in FDIs because of the court case. In any event, this is a civil country. We are in court. We are not at war. Yeah. So if you're a good investor, I do not see how that should affect your investment decisions significantly. It may slow it down.
David Fosudote is a lawyer and a business strategist. Let's turn our attention to the stock market. And if you're a shareholder in MTN, the value of each share held was up by 2 pesos to close at 72 pesos. SGSSB, that is Societe Generale, was also up by a peso to close at 73 pesos. And that's all for Business on Newsnight.
55, 78, 58, 78. Hey, Charlie. My network is really killing me. I have to pay my uncle's workers via mobile money, but the charges alone, it's about 380 cedis.
Charges alone just to send money? That's 10 bags of cement already, my guy. Listen, bro, you can save money on charges if you move to Vodafone Cash now.
Vodafone Cash? But my network is...
Hey, sending money on that your network, you pay. Sending money on your network to other networks, you pay. But guess what? Sending money on Vodafone Cash is free. Sending money on Vodafone Cash to all other networks is also absolutely free. No charges at all on Vodafone Cash. So tell me, what are you still doing on that your network? Massa, look sharp, then move to Vodafone Cash.
Hey, make a change the SIM right now.
Yeah, send Sending money on Vodafone Cash to all other networks is now absolutely free. Send unlimited amounts of money as many times as you like for free. Just dial *110# now to send money.
The future is exciting. Ready?
My dress is who I am and how I feel. Feeling beautiful hands is essential for me. My fabrics, my pride. I use BF with pure blend of oils which keeps colors rich and the textile perfect. BF cares for the fabrics I love. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the FDA.
Joy 99.7 FM.
And you're still live here on Newsnight. It's on Joy, of course, and a lot of your messages coming through here on Newsnight. Remember our top story this hour: Parliament shuts down for 3 weeks due to a surge in COVID-19 cases. And Eliasu is sending us a message on that. He says the surge in cases in Parliament is enough to call for the suspension of the sittings in the House. I implore the infected persons to adhere to the protocols involved. But many of you are talking also about the case of the attack on the ambulance and the plight of the pregnant woman who was caught in the middle of that. This one from Godfather in Amasaman. He says, please, what is wrong with the police? By now, using the Momo transaction, someone should be arrested by now since last week, Thursday. Another one says, and this is on the Supreme Court hearing of the petition. Good evening. Lawyer Chachichikata is calling for accountability in the Supreme Court. As if the Supreme Court is public account committee, please stay safe and observe the COVID-19 safety protocols. Another one says accountability of EC in which contest? Election petition or management administration specificity? Election petition only in the Supreme Court. Management and administration accountability situated where it belongs, Parliament. It's still here on Newsnight on Joy 99.7 FM. I want to return to the story about the attack on the ambulance that was conveying a pregnant woman for treatment following complications. We've been speaking to the pregnant woman who was caught in the middle of all that, and she's told us that since Thursday when the incident happened, she still hasn't been contacted by the police, contrary to the assertion by the police that they have taken statements from her and investigations are proceeding. I want to bring in now the acting Eastern Regional Police PRO, Francis Gumado. Mr. Gumado, I hope you could hear me now.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Gumado, can you hear me?
Okay.
He still doesn't have his attention. I want to bring in, however, the head of research at the research and communications at the telecoms chamber, Derek Barnabas, because of the incident involving the Momo pin, which was used to transfer amount onto the phone of another of the robbers while this attack was happening.
Yeah. So let's get some more insight into this, because how is it that by now we don't know which number the Momo or the money was transferred onto is one question that people are asking. So, but before we speak to Derek Barnabas Lai, let's try again, because we really need answers from the police. And Mr. Gumado can hear us. We've already told him what exactly the issues are. But Mr. Gumado, so we are asking specifically, have you contacted the victims involved in this robbery? And what have you picked up?
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Gumado.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Gumado. Good evening, Mr. Gumado.
I can't hear you. I'm not getting the question you are asking.
Okay. Well, so we'll leave it here. But definitely, this is an issue we will pursue, because the police tells us that they've been investigating this. They've taken witness statement from the victims of this robbery. So they need to give us answers.
Yeah.
And we'll bring that to you
There are
subsequently.
a few questions that the police must answer. This happened on Thursday. A poor pregnant woman in an ambulance was attacked together with the ambulance personnel. One ambulance personnel has been shot and killed. The other traumatized because she was actually sexually assaulted. The pregnant woman says since Thursday, no police officer has contacted her just for a basic question on what happened.
Yeah.
And she provides to us, the journalists, a very detailed account of how her Momo pin was taken. And as we know, Momo pins are assigned to numbers, and people have registered for it. That's one of the easiest way to track and arrest people, right? If you work with the telcos. It's been 4 days since that happened, and clearly from what the woman is telling us, an eyewitness, she experienced it. That hasn't happened. The police need to answer those two questions because they have claimed that they've done so, and we've tried our best. Having booked him to speak to the issues, he can't hear us, and so when we get that, get him on a good line.
Our producer says we should give him the benefit of the doubt again and try for the last time and see if he can hear us this time. Let's try both microphones at the same time then. Mr. Gumado, can you hear us now?
Hello?
Mr. Gumado, can you hear us now?
I can hear you now.
Okay, great. Thank you. So I'm asking about the investigations of this robbery on Thursday. We are told that you told us a while ago, some time back, that you've investigated, you've spoken to the witnesses in this matter. But we are speaking to one of the pregnant women in this case.
Yes.
She tells us that the police has not contacted her at all to take her witness statement. How come?
It is true. That is correct. But what I want to tell you, as a matter of fact, is that the whole incident about the robbery is not about the ambulance vehicle alone. 3 vehicles were already robbed before the ambulance vehicle. So the ambulance vehicle even happened to be the 4th vehicle that was involved or that first victim of that robbery incident. Are you getting my point?
I'm not getting your point, Mr. Gomado. I'm not getting your point. There may be 3 vehicles involved in this robbery, but you told us that you are in contact with these witnesses to help you arrest these robbers, and you're telling me that the ambulance where the driver was shot in the head and killed. You're telling me that investigations have not been conducted. You have not spoken to those who survived this robbery.
No, what I'm saying is that, listen to my argument. What I'm saying is that, on my side of the story, investigation is ongoing. It's not going to be an event. It's a process.
But you specifically, Mr. Humado, you specifically told us yesterday that statements have been taken from the survivors.
No, some survivors. Not all. And I'm telling you
forgive me, there are only...
The people who survived in the ambulance are not the only victims.
Okay, so when you say some survivors...
No, let me clarify that point very well for everybody to understand.
Clarify.
The vehicles that were involved in this robbery, you are talking about 4 vehicles. A Sprinter bus loaded from Hokwe going to Kumasi, the passengers were equally victims. So we are talking of over 30 people who fell victim to this very incident or robbery. Are you getting my point? And you can't get 2 or 3 investigators investigating the same case. It's one person. So it's a process. Some have given statement to the police. Some are yet to be contacted. Some are yet to give statement to police. So to conclude as if police are not doing anything about the case, it is not the best. So
just to clarify, you say there's one officer working on this case?
Yes. You see, a case that is under investigation is assigned to an investigator. Are you getting my point? If he comes to arrest and other issues, he can employ the service of other officers to help. But he is the sole investigator of those or that case.
So you know,
so
how
looking
many...
at the numbers, I'm coming. Looking at the numbers involved, that's why I'm telling you that I must give you the right picture. It is not about the ambulance car or vehicle alone.
We get that picture now, Mr. Gomado. How many witness statements has the
investigator
taken so far?
So
How many...
you should agree that we are dealing with victims that are over 30 in number.
And how many witness statements have you taken from these over 30 in number victims?
Yes.
You say?
You know, if you should even get even all of them, we will still take statements from all of them.
How many have you taken so far?
Some will find themselves in a place that maybe it will be very difficult for you to reach them.
How many people died from this incident? How many deaths did we record?
So far is the ambulance driver who was confirmed dead.
Should that not be priority for you?
Mm-hmm.
Should that not be of importance to you that one person died and that the people that witnessed the shooting of that one person, would they not be your prime witnesses to take statements from?
No, that would not be bad. You understand? It would not be bad at all. But you see, it doesn't lie on the police officer alone to do all. Because where the incident happened, the duration of that case.
But Mr. Gomado, this is an ENT officer. Assuming that this person was a police officer, is this how we're going to treat this case?
No, you are getting it wrong.
Am I?
No, you are getting it wrong there. You understand? You are getting it wrong there. Investigation, it is not something that you have to do as an event. It's a process. And it is a shared responsibility. If I should be a victim of a robbery incident or whatever, and I know where my case is being investigated, depending on my situation, you understand, I can also reach out to maybe the investigator. Oh, I was a victim. This is what I've witnessed. On the other hand, maybe I'm not even in the position to walk or move to the police. The investigator, upon getting my number or any information about my whereabouts, can also come to me and come and take statement from me, either being at the hospital, being at home, or wherever. Are you getting my point?
Mr. Gumado, thank you for...
I'm coming. Let us digest the issues very well.
Well, I'm sorry. We ran out of time on this, Mr. Gumado. You've explained and given us the police's position on this, but it remains factual that one person died in the entire robbery. And as again he's confirmed, the vehicle in which the person was shot, they haven't spoken
at all
to any of the people involved in the actual killing
who
witnessed the killing. I mean, the gravest of the crimes that happened that day is that somebody lost a life.
It was just one person.
And all the people who actually witnessed it in real time and actually experienced it, none of them have been spoken to by the police. That's according to the police themselves, as it's just been confirmed there. Briefly, apologies for the late bringing your sports, but let's wrap up with it. Let's give us the quick headlines in sports tonight.
Well, it had to do with father of former world boxing champion, that's Isaac Dogbe, and he urged for his son to reach excellence. Now, the big news coming in was that Paul Dogbe, who's the father of Isaac Dogbe, had parted ways with his son and would not be his manager anymore. And then Paul Dogbe, decided, and he spoke to, Joy Sports, saying that his son would still go on and be boxing, and he hopes that he has bigger success, even though he wouldn't be by his side.
Thank you very much, Oreku. And that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of News Night. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to brush your teeth with Pepsodent, because with Pepsodent, every smile matters. I am MF Apao.
And my name is Evan Spencer. Enjoy the rest of your evening.